It began with a sound, not an explosion, not a siren, not a command, a small sound, soft, warm. Laughter. Princess Elia heard it for the first time as she passed a street corner in the human city. Two children were chasing a bubble. One popped it. Both laughed wild and free. Elia stopped. She didn't understand. Why were they making noise? Why did their faces twist like that? But something in her chest tightened, not pain. Something else, something pulling her toward that sound. This is called joy. Alex smiled as he held out a small pair of headphones. Try it, he said. Elia took them carefully. The tech was primitive compared to Xyrillian machines, but the moment she placed the headphones on her ears, her eyes widened. Music. It moved through her like light in the dark. A slow melody at first, soft and emotional. Then, a fast rhythm, full of energy. It made her foot twitch. What is this feeling? She asked. Joy, Alex said. It's how humans feel music. We don't just hear it, we feel it inside. Elia looked confused, but there is no function. It has no purpose. Alex laughed. That's the purpose. Eyes in the shadows high above, deep in orbit, a Xyrillian drone recorded everything. The hug, the music. The smile. Counselor Threx watched the footage with tight lips. She is slipping, he whispered. Her face is changing. Her tone. Her mind. Beside him, another voice added, if she continues, she may never return. They activated Protocol Gray, silent preparation for forced extraction. Why is this sweet? Later that afternoon, Alex and Elia visited a local school during Earth-Human Culture Week. Children were painting flags. One girl ran to Elia and offered her an apple. Elia stared at it. It's red. Alex chuckled. Try it. She took a bite. Her eyes blinked fast. Her brain tried to identify the chemical structure, but the only word she could find was sweet. And warm, she added softly. For the first time her voice had no control, no command, just wonder. A child tugged her hand. Do you want to paint with us? Elia looked at Alex. He nodded. She sat on the floor beside the kids and picked up a brush. A new color. Her painting was strange, not logical or planned like Xyrillian design. It was wild, blue sky, orange trees, pink stars. Alex looked over. That's beautiful. She looked at it for a long time. It makes no sense, she said. That's the point, he replied. Art is emotion on a page. Elia stared at her own painting, as if she didn't recognize the hand that made it. For the first time, she whispered to herself, I think I'm changing. Alien rebellion? Back on the Xyrillian ship, something unexpected was happening. A young alien technician watched Elia's recordings with curiosity. He placed his hand over his chest, the same spot she had touched after the hug. I want to feel it too, he whispered. He wasn't alone. More crew members began secretly watching Elia's interactions. The council noticed a small rise in curiosity, emotion, even laughter behind closed doors. A silent question was rising. What if she's right? What if humans aren't weak? What if they're free? That evening, Elia stood alone on Earth's balcony, watching the sunset. Colors painted the sky. Her fingers moved gently over her chest. She spoke softly. Is this what feeling alive means? Behind her, a small drone hovered silently. And deep in space, a Xyrillian warship received its orders. Prepare for extraction. Phase 1 begins at dawn. But Elia didn't know. She only knew that for the first time in her life, she had laughed. And she didn't want to stop. The dream came before the warning. Elia stood in a golden desert. 2 planets hung in the sky, one cold and silver, one warm and blue. She reached for both, but they drifted apart, pulling her in opposite directions. A voice whispered, You can't belong to both. She woke up, but the feeling stayed. Earth, early morning. Something feels wrong. The Earth sky was clear, but the air felt heavy. Like a storm was coming, but not one with rain. Elia walked through a quiet park with Alex. Birds chirped, leaves rustled. A child flew a kite, but Elia's steps were slow. Her hands trembled slightly. Alex noticed. "You okay?" he asked. "I received a message last night," she said. Alex stopped walking. "What kind of message?" Her eyes looked distant. "From my council, a direct order. I must return home today." Flashback, the message late the night before, her ship's control panel lit up. A voice spoke in the ancient royal tone. "You were sent to observe, not to change. You've gone too far. Return to us, or be replaced." The voice had no emotion, no mercy. But Elia's heart, or whatever had awakened inside her, clenched. For the first time, she was afraid. Of her own people. The human response, meanwhile. Earth's leaders gathered in secret. Satellite readings showed strange energy signals on the dark side of the moon. Something alien was moving, possibly warships. One general leaned forward. "She's a risk now. If she stays, they might attack." Another whispered, "Or maybe, she's our only chance to understand them." "What should I do, Alex?" Back in the park, Elia sat on a bench beside Alex. Her voice was quieter than ever. "If I go back, I'll lose everything I've learned, everything I've felt." Alex nodded slowly. "But if you stay, they might come for you." She looked up at him. "What would you do?" Alex didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I'd choose what feels true. Not what I was told to feel, what I know is real." He reached into his pocket and took out a small earth item, a paper crane. "I made this in school," he said. "It's useless, but it means something to me." He placed it in her hand. "It's not about the paper. It's about the meaning." Elia stared at it. Something inside her cracked just a little more. Tension builds on the ship inside the Zarillian ship. Her guards were getting restless. They had received the same order. If she refuses, detain her. But a few lower officers hesitated. "She's changing," one whispered. "And maybe that's not wrong." But orders were orders, and the fleet above Earth was already turning toward the planet. Sunset decision as the sun set, painting the sky orange and red. Elia stood on a rooftop with Alex. "I used to think emotion was weakness," she said. "But now it feels like strength." Alex looked at her. "So, what now?" She opened her hand. The paper crane was still there. Without a word, she reached up and removed the royal crest from her armor. It fell to the ground with a soft, metallic thud. "I'm not a symbol anymore," she said. "I want to be real." Alex smiled. "You already are." Suddenly, a high-pitched signal buzzed from her communicator. A voice crackled. "Final warning. Stand down and prepare for extraction." Elia looked at the sky. The stars above had started to move. Ships were coming. Not for peace, for her. The sky was quiet, too quiet. All eyes were on the strange object slowly moving above Earth. It wasn't a satellite. It wasn't a plane. It was a spaceship, smooth, silver, and glowing faint blue dot in a large open field near the United Nations. Headquarters, soldiers stood in rows. World leaders waited in a special area. Cameras from every country were live. The world was watching. For the first time in history, aliens were coming to Earth. Not for war, but for peace. From the spaceship, a ramp slowly came down. A tall figure walked forward. It was her, Princess Elia of the Zarillian Empire. Her skin had a soft glow. Her eyes were bright like stars, and her armor sparkled like glass. She looked powerful. She looked not human. Everyone was silent. No one dared to move. This was not just a visit, it was a royal event. And royals, especially alien ones, expected respect. Elia stopped at the end of the ramp. Her royal guards stood behind her like statues. She looked around at the humans, expecting a bow, a speech, or a ceremony. That was how it was done on her world. But then, something strange happened. A young man stepped forward. He looked calm, smiling gently. His name was Alex. He was a cultural ambassador, chosen because he was kind, curious, and spoke many languages. But he didn't know anything about Xyrillian royal rules. He didn't bow. He didn't give a long speech. Instead, he walked right up to the alien princess and opened his arms. Before anyone could stop him, he wrapped his arms around her. A human hug. Gasps filled the air. Military leaders whispered in panic. Alien guards reached for their weapons. Elia didn't move. She stood frozen in place, eyes wide, arms stiff. No one had touched her like that before, not even her own people. On Xyrillia, emotion was seen as weakness. Touch was almost forbidden. But this was different. The hug was warm, simple, honest. Elia didn't understand it, but she felt something strange. A small heat inside her chest. It was not painful. It was something else. Something ... soft. Slowly, Alex pulled back. "Welcome to Earth," he said with a smile. Silence. Complete silence. Then, Elia did something even more shocking than the hug. She raised her hand to stop her guards. "Do not harm him," she said calmly. Her voice was quiet, but full of command. Her guards stepped back, confused but obedient. Everyone looked at her, waiting for her reaction. She looked at Alex. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger, but curiosity. "What was that?" she asked. "A hug," Alex said simply. "It's how we say hello sometimes, when we care." Elia blinked. "That felt familiar," she whispered. The translators repeated her words in every language. The crowd began to whisper. Scientists looked at each other, surprised. Even world leaders didn't know what to say. Familiar. How could an alien princess feel anything familiar in a human hug? Alex tilted his head. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked gently. Elia looked away for a moment, then back at him. "No," she said. "You did something different." Alex laughed nervously. "Well, I hope that's a good thing." She didn't smile. But her eyes had changed. There was a small shine in them now. A crack in the cold, perfect surface she showed. The world. The ceremony continued. Speeches were made. Gifts were exchanged. But everyone was still thinking about the hug. What had just happened? That night, across the world, news channels ran the same headline. "The hug that shook the stars." Some called it a mistake. Others called it a miracle. But deep inside Princess Elia's heart, a small question had begun to grow. Why did that simple human touch feel more powerful than any ceremony her people had ever known? Far above Earth, in the shadows of space, her people watched closely. And not all of them were happy. But for now, one thing was clear. The story of Alex and Elia was just beginning. She couldn't sleep. Princess Elia sat alone inside her glowing chamber aboard the Xyrillian ship, high above Earth. Outside the window, stars moved slowly. Earth's blue ocean sparkled below like a painting. But her mind wasn't calm. Her heart, or what her people once called a heart, felt heavy. Why did the hug feel so real, so warm, so alive? She had met dozens of leaders from many planets. All bowed, all followed protocol. None had ever touched her. None had made her feel anything. Until now. Down on Earth, Alex sat on a bench outside the UN building, looking at the sky. He had no idea what he had started. Reporters were calling him the boy who hugged an alien. Some people were laughing. Some were angry. Some were afraid. But Alex wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about her face. When he hugged her, something had changed in her eyes. For a moment, she didn't look like a royal alien. She looked like a person. Inside the Xyrillian council room, unacceptable, roared High Commander Varix. The council chamber was dark and cold. 12 alien leaders sat in a circle. Their eyes glowed white. Their faces were sharp, without emotion. She is the royal bloodline. She allowed a human to touch her like an equal. She didn't stop him, said another. She seemed pleased. Disgust moved silently through the room. We cannot allow her to be corrupted by human feelings. A silent vote was taken. A message was sent. Back on Earth. Elia's private meeting the next morning. Elia arrived at the Earth Cultural Center, not with soldiers, but alone. Alex was waiting. He stood up quickly, unsure what to do. Shake hands? Bo, hug again. She noticed his confusion and spoke first. You may speak freely. There are no ceremonies today. Alex smiled. Okay, so, what brings you here, princess? She didn't answer at first. Then she walked slowly toward a nearby wall. It had pictures of human children. Smiling, playing in the snow dot, she touched one. Your people feel too much, she said. You laugh, you cry, you touch. Alex nodded. Yeah, that's kind of the point. We removed all of that, she said quietly. Long ago, our people were too emotional. It caused chaos. So we shut it down. We became logical, controlled. Alex tilted his head. But don't you ever miss it? Elia looked at him. Her voice was almost a whisper. I didn't know something was missing until you hugged me. Suspicion grows meanwhile. Earth's military leaders were getting nervous. We don't know what the aliens want, said one general. This hug incident could be manipulation. They could be studying us. We need to prepare for all outcomes. Alien surveillance begins on the spaceship. Elia's private room was no longer private. Tiny floating drones watched her. The council had activated secret surveillance. They didn't trust her anymore. The hug had changed her, and that made her dangerous. One council member spoke to her secretly through a glowing panel. You must return home, princess. This mission is over. Elia stared at the screen. Not yet. I've discovered something worth understanding. Back on Earth, Alex took Elia to a small garden near the city. Flowers bloomed in strange colors. A child ran past laughing, holding a paper kite. Elia watched the child in silence. He's free, she said. Alex looked at her. Don't you want that? To feel, to live, not just survive? Elia didn't answer, but her fingers touched a flower gently. She closed her eyes for the first time in years. She smiled. It was small. It was soft. But it was real. That night, a message was sent from the Xerillian High Council. If the princess refuses to return, she will be declared compromised. Prepare the retrieval fleet. In space, dark ships began to rise from the edge of the moon, heading toward Earth. The hug was just the beginning. Now the galaxy was watching. It didn't begin with war. It began with a tear. One drop, quiet, unseen. On a world far away, centuries ago, a child cried. Her home had been lost in a civil conflict. But when she cried, no one comforted her. On Xerillia, emotions were called the fire that burns planets. So they removed them. Not by choice. By design. They rewired their minds, silenced feelings, replaced warmth with logic. Peace came. But something else died with it. Present-day, Earth orbit. Aboard the warship, Commander Varric stood before a council screen. The image showed Elia smiling, laughing, painting. Unacceptable. She is infected, he growled. The human disease is spreading in her. One counselor asked, Do you feel anger, Commander? Varric paused. Then said, No, only ... clarity. But his clenched fist told a different story. On Earth, a confession under the stars. That night, Elia and Alex sat on the rooftop of a quiet building, watching the moon. She had changed. No longer wearing her armor, no royal crest, only simple Earth clothes. Her long silver hair flowed in the wind. I need to tell you something, she said. Alex looked at her concerned. Our people weren't always like this, she continued. We used to feel love, joy, pain, grief. But those emotions used to destroy each other. Cities burned. Families broke. So we removed the parts of our minds that caused chaos. Alex listened quietly. No judgment. Just patience. But we also lost beauty. Art. Music. Kindness. Laughter. Her voice cracked. Alex gently said, "And now?" Elia closed her eyes. "Now, I feel all of it at once. And I don't know how to stop it." Meanwhile, scientists. Alon Earth's top researchers had been studying the footage. "She's changing biologically," said one. "Her brain patterns are shifting. It's like she's becoming more human." One general whispered, "Or maybe we're becoming more like her." The question scared everyone. What if emotions were more contagious than any virus? Alien rebellion begins inside the Xerillian ship still docked in orbit. A young technician named Ral stirred restlessly. He had watched every moment of Elia's time on Earth. He had never laughed in his life. But last night, he did, quietly, alone, watching an Earth cartoon on a secret screen. He wasn't the only one. Across the ship, small whispers began. A silent movement. What if she's not infected? What if she's evolving? Elia's breaking point. Elia stood in front of a mirror. Her hands trembled. Her skin glowed differently now, not from tech, but from warmth. Her eyes held light. She touched her cheek. "This is me?" Alex entered quietly. "You're scared?" She nodded. "For the first time. Yes." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Good. It means you care what happens next." The final message. Just then, her communicator flashed one last time. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a live hologram. "Commander." Varix appeared, eyes cold. "You were a princess. Now you're a threat. You will surrender, or Earth will burn beside you." The hologram faded. Elia stood frozen. Alex spoke softly. "So what do you want to do?" Elia looked up at the stars. "No more running," she said. "No more silence. I will tell the truth. To them, to the galaxy." At that same moment, a secret Xerillian message spread across their internal network, sent by the technician Rao. "She remembers what it means to feel, and so do I." Across the alien ship, more and more crew members paused. Listening to the voice they were told to forget. Their own. Elia wasn't just changing. She was becoming a symbol, and symbols spark revolutions. It started with a whisper, not in words, but in emotion. A silent flutter in the minds of the Xerillian crew. A tingling sensation, like the memory of a dream they'd never lived. One touched a flower in a stolen Earth video. Another stared too long at a child's laugh. And a third cried, not because he was sad, but because finally he could. The message that wasn't supposed to exist from her room on Earth. Elia sent a pulse-coded message to her people. Not to the council, but to the workers, the youth, the forgotten. No commands. No royal seal, just 4 words. I felt something real. And a video, her laughing. Painting. Her hugging. Within hours, it reached hidden terminals across Xerillian fleets. 1,000,000 hearts that had been trained to feel nothing suddenly felt everything. The revolt didn't start with weapons. It started with memories that weren't theirs, but should have been, on Earth, the last calm before the storm. Alex and Elia stood near the edge of a cliff, watching waves crash below. Neither spoke. The clouds above were darker than yesterday. The moon was no longer visible. Warships were approaching. They both knew it, but something else was rising, not from the sky, but from within. "I don't know how to lead a revolution," Elia said. Alex smiled softly. "You already are." The council's panic inside the High Council chambers. Alarms began to flash. Unusual behavior spreading across the 7th Fleet. multiple crew members refusing to follow commands. Emotion detected in over 42% of ship II logs. Commander Vayrix slammed his fist. "She is poisoning the system," another counselor whispered, "or healing it." Silence fell. Fear, real fear, filled the room, and none of them could say it out loud. "She's winning." Without firing a single shot, inside the mind of the movement RAL, the technician opened a private link. Hundreds of faces appeared on screen. Alien workers, pilots, scholars, some crying, some laughing, some simply watching Elya's hug on. "Repeat," she reminded us, he said. "We were never machines. We chose silence, but now we can choose sound." And with that, he smiled. A real smile. Earth prepares for the worst in a secret human bunker. Global leaders met. Alien. Civil unrest is spreading. This could make them unstable or dangerous. What if Elya loses control? What if she doesn't? They didn't know whether to prepare a shield. Or an alliance. One advisor stood and said what no one dared to. If emotions are spreading, maybe this is humanity's greatest weapon. Elya's last choice that night. Elya stood alone in the center of an abandoned human amphitheater. A beacon drone hovered above, broadcasting her live to every Xyrillian screen. She wasn't dressed as royalty anymore. She wore no armor. No titles, just truth. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. We were told that emotion was weakness, that love destroyed, that feeling made us fall. But it was never the feelings that broke us. It was fear of them. She stepped forward, looking straight into the camera. "I have felt sorrow, wonder, beauty. I have cried. I have laughed. I have hugged. And if that makes me unworthy of the throne, then I give it up willingly." On board the command warship, Commander Vayrix gave a single order: disable her, permanently. A dark drone launched, headed toward Earth, targeting Elya. But before it could leave orbit, 3 Xyrillian fighters turned on it and destroyed it mid-flight. Inside their cockpits, 3 pilots said in unison, "We remember who we are." And across the stars, millions felt what had been missing for centuries: hope. The war never came, but the sky still burned. Clouds above, Earth lit up with the glow of approaching Xyrillian ships, not firing, not speaking, just hovering. Watching. And below them, standing in the center of a silent city square, was Ely. No guards, no weapons, just a girl from another world, who had finally learned how to feel. Let her speak. Across Earth and aboard every alien ship, all screens turned on, a single live feed. Elya stood before a microphone, wind brushing her silver hair across her face. Behind her, humans from all nations. Beside her, Alex. Her voice, now filled with quiet strength, echoed to both worlds. "They told you I was broken. They told you I had failed my role, my title, my duty. But the truth is, I woke up." Inside the council room, something breaks. The High Council watched from orbit, emotionless masks on their faces, until one of them, the oldest, most silent, reached up. And took his mask off. The others stared, no words, just a single tear down his pale cheek. "I remember the last time I cried," he whispered. "It was the day my daughter died. I wasn't allowed to feel it. She would have loved this world." The hug that changed everything. Julia stepped away from the podium. She didn't shout. She didn't order. She walked forward, slowly, toward a young Xyrillian soldier who had just arrived on Earth in full uniform, sent to escort her home by force. He raised his weapon, but her hands were empty, and her eyes were not afraid. "I don't want to fight you," she said. The soldier hesitated. "I want to thank you for reminding me who I was supposed to be." And then, just like the beginning, she hugged him, not because she had to, because she wanted to. The soldier didn't move at first, but then he hugged her back. The weapon fell from his hand, And all across space, Xerillians watching, soldiers, citizens, leaders stood frozen, their memories long buried. Rose, reaction across the galaxy one by one. Xerillian warships dimmed their shields, weapons powered down, onboard systems lit up with messages, standing down, awaiting new protocol. Emotion restored. On Earth, the sky went quiet again, not with silence. But peace. 1 year later, a joint Earth-Xerillian garden bloomed in the middle of what used to be a war prep zone. Children from both species played beneath trees that glowed at night. Laughter, human and alien, mixed like music. Elia now lived in both worlds. No longer a princess, no longer a weapon, just someone learning to live. Alex sat beside her one afternoon as they watched kids chase floating drones for fun. "You ever think it would end like this?" he asked. She smiled. "A real one." "No," she said. "It started with a hug, and I thought that was small." Alex looked at her. Turns out, that hug was the loudest thing in the universe. Across the stars, a final broadcast went out, recorded in Elia's voice. "To any world that fears feeling, listen, you don't have to fight to be strong. You don't have to be cold to be wise. Let yourself feel. Let yourself change. Because sometimes, a hug is not weakness. Sometimes it's how a galaxy is saved."